y'all, I'm Hope here at Crafty Hope and welcome. It is the first day of ICAD. Now ICAD means Index Card a Day, and it is a challenge. It's a 61-day challenge running June 1st through the end of July. I think that's the 31st. And it is a daily challenge in which you take an index card, either 3x5 or 4x6, no larger than that, and just do a little bit of art on it every day. The originator of this is Tammy Garcia, and you can find her at Daisy Yellow Art or as Gypsy999 on Instagram. She also has a new Instagram. I think it's, I will definitely put it, I'll try to type it here, but it's still new, so I'm not used to it. I will double check that. Anyway, Tammy has some daily prompts and weekly themes and extra little challenges mixed in there. So I definitely encourage you to go check out Instagram and her website. As well, my friend Nina Fickett has her own list of prompts, which is the Mixed Media ICAD Challenge. And you don't have to use any of that to create. The real challenge is to just pull out an index card and create something every day. Now, I like to go ahead and write down the prompts and see if I'm challenged, if I'm inspired by them. Today, for day one, Tammy's prompts are portal or doorway, and the mixed media prompts from Nina is wrapping paper. So I'm going to put these for the rest of the days down. I don't know how I'm going to be sharing this video with y'all. I have done daily videos before. I know that I'm probably not going to do that this year, but I figured I'd turn the camera on and we'll see what happens. Now, with the prompts in mind, I almost gave up on portal or doorway. I've gone through my stash and I finally found this architectural drawing that I had on this paper, and it's got this doorway on it that I think is pretty awesome, and that is on this tracing paper. I think is even better, so I may use it. And then wrapping paper, I pulled out, today is June 1st, which means it is Pride Month and I am an ally. So I thought this is Christmas paper, y'all, but y'all look at this beautiful like rainbow sheen to it. It also has this arch, which to me is reminiscent of a portal or doorway, so I thought that was fun. And I pulled out a couple other little wrapping paper. This is just craft paper, which I do like to wrap with every now and then. So just some little snippets. Sorry about that. We've had some storms moving through the area, and so my power just blinked. So sorry about that. So I will voice over probably the rest of this, just because, yeah, if I try to keep talking, we'll never get out of here. All right, let me go. So I am combining these videos 3 at a time, or however I feel like it. I just felt like I wanted to go ahead and start sharing my ICAD videos again. We'll see if I keep it up for all of ICAD. I've got a lot of other stuff going on, and I still haven't shared all of my 100-day project stuff, so I'm going to try to balance all of that. And if there are days that I don't like the ICADs, I'm not going to share them. So that's what it comes down to. If you're interested in these, let me know. I did toy with the idea of creating a Patreon and just sharing these on Patreon, and that may be something coming for next year. We'll see. I've been playing with the idea of doing a Patreon for a long time, so we'll see. If you're interested in something like that, definitely let me know. Okay, so for my first 3 ICADs, I, as you can see, am just laying down that wrapping paper. The first one I put down, y'all, it's white on white. I don't know if you can see it, but it was like a white, yeah, you can see it kind of there, that it's white dots on a white surface, and I thought it might be kind of neat. I may try it later to see how like it watercolors or something like that, if there's like a resist to the dots, but in this card in general, it doesn't do much. I am using a fluid matte medium to put this down, and right here a paintbrush. I will switch to another tool in just a little bit. So I'm going to get these several pieces down. I'm looking at the card now, trying to remember what I did next. So it was feeling super shiny and not cohesive at all. So I'm going to bring in a little bit of Liquitex white gesso, that's the Professionals, and a brayer, and move that around. But I realized once it went over that like rainbow colored thing that covered up so much of it, and I wasn't happy with that, so I did scrape it back just a little bit so that it wasn't yeah, I really liked having some of that showing, and I felt like covering it up was taking away some of its natural shine and beauty. So because my natural inclination is to add some collage papers, things I've just ephemera type things, old typewritten paper and book paper and things like that, I am going to add a little bit of that in. There's some handwriting. And this, I'm just sticking it down with a new Hoot glue stick. You could use whatever. Glue stick's fine. If you've got Elmer's glue or Mod Podge or whatever, any of that works, y'all. You don't have to use what I use. I will have a list with links to Amazon if you are interested in getting some of these things. You can see I've got my bucket of ephemera over there. It's just scraps. It's my bucket of scraps over there, and I'm pulling stuff out of it. Mostly I wanted to add some texture on top of that white because, like I said, the dots themselves kind of got lost in the background. And from there, I needed some mark making on this, and I wanted something very bold and black and just kind of a statement. So I've grabbed my Stabilo All pencil, and I'm gonna dip it in water. So, oh, see here, I thought maybe, I don't think I played with that little piece for a minute and decided I didn't need that. And I'm gonna go right on to this with that wet Stabilo All and just make some marks. These are typical little dashes or ovally circles that I like to make on things. So I'm gonna just kind of space those out. It adds a nice contrast on here, and it's a nice bold statement, and it helps, yeah, especially right here where I'm going across the two different kinds of paper, bridges that divide a bit. Now I will dry this in just a second and start to bring in that tissue paper doorway that I've got. I will tell you that came from a haul I got. I believe the gentleman, or maybe even the lady, I'm not real sure. The estate sale I got it from was an architect of some kind, because I got rolls and rolls and rolls of like architectural design type things. So I'm going to put this over it, and I wanted it to be over both sides, both the white paper and the rainbow paper, kind of thinking about, we all have to walk through a doorway, no matter what our orientation lies, no matter what kind of person we are, where our interests lie, and we all have to walk through the door of this life. So I kind of wanted that to overlap, and not to overthink this, y'all. I mean, that's still just Christmas wrapping paper. And it's, and I think we should celebrate everyone every day of the year, no matter, yeah. I'm gonna overthink this just so a bit of coffee on here because I just love the age of it. I splattered it as well. That's just some instant coffee that I keep in a little yogurt cup and reconstitute it as needed. You'll see it again in this video at least one more time. So I'm cutting down that tissue paper so I could line up the top of it. And again, I'm going to use that fluid matte medium. I'm having trouble with that cheap container thing that I've got from the Dollar Tree, but it's better than the massive one I've got under my desk. So I do bring in the silicone, it's a face mask spreader, and it's also from the Dollar Tree. So if you need something like that, definitely go check out the cosmetic aisle at the Dollar Tree. All right, so I'm flattening this down, which does kind of lose some of the marks of that architectural drawing, but it's one of those things that if you look close enough or at a certain angle, you can see it. So it's, see, like there, you can really see that doorway and the stairs, and what I really like are the lanterns on either side of the door, like sconces out there. And I'm going to clean up my desk here for just a minute. I think I'm going to go ahead and pull out the heat tool and make sure this is good and dry. Once I trim it down a bit more, I'm going to look at it, and it's going to bother me, like I said, that I kind of lost some of that door. So to kind of bring it in a different way, well, I'm going to eventually dry this. I don't know why I didn't cut some of this out. So once I get it dry, I decide to grab first I decided to grab my Distress Oxide in Walnut Stain and ink up the edges of it. Because the Distress Oxides are water reactive, and I do like the colors that change with the Distress Oxides, I will activate it, I guess, with a wet paintbrush. Just kind of bring that in to frame up the card. And that gave me a little bit of time to think about how well I could see that doorway, how I wanted to bring it in, what I wanted to do. And I end up grabbing, and I'll try it again, and I'll end up bringing in my Uniball Sig gold gel pen and tracing those lines. So I'm having to hold this kind of at an angle so I can see it, and I'm being, I don't know, a little overly precious almost about it. So I'm trying to see it and decide exactly which parts of that doorway I really wanted to accentuate. So I'm going to get the whole like center portion here, like the doorway, the stairs leading up to it, the molding that's above it, just to kind of get that doorway. I'm not going to get like I don't even know what you would call, they're like banisters next to the steps. I'm not going to get the windows and the shutters on either side of the door. None of that. It's just the doorway and those like steps leading up to it. So it feels kind of welcoming, and the rest of it just kind of blends out. I don't know if you can hear the cat that is currently meowing at me. I apologize. She's an old lady, and she has gotten very demanding in her old age. Yeah, I just had to stop the recording to pick her up and put her in my lap because that's all she wants anymore. So I wanted to add a sentiment or something else that was kind of in your face, and because everything on here feels like background, and that doorway's not really popping, but I didn't really want it to. So I've cut down a piece of old linen, some kind of, I don't know, doily-ish thing, and took a piece of that craft wrapping paper to my not sewing machine, my typewriter, and typed up the phrase, "Different is good." So I've torn down the craft paper, and I'm getting it like even tinier and tinier and tinier because I've got just that little scrap that I cut down. And I'm going to ink it up. This is Distress ink, also in Walnut Stain. Before I ink that last edge, tear it down a little bit more. And so I'm going to play with this, and what I felt like this whole thing was lacking was some actual texture, not just visual texture, but like actual texture to it. So that's what I'm trying to add with this little bit of fabric. You can see I've got a button pulled out there, but this white button to me doesn't seem to be really doing it for me. So I'm going to get up and I'm going to go grab a black button to kind of go with the black marks that are in the background and give a little bit more visual interest to this little stack that I'm creating. I'm going to tear down that bit of fabric a bit more, fray it up. And I think I'm going to use my Oohoo glue stick to go ahead. Hey, first I'm going to go get that black button. There we go. And that just pops. It really kind of draws your eye to the whole thing. So I will use my Oohoo glue stick and glue that bit of paper to that bit of fabric. And then I'm going to grab a needle and some thread. I'm going to skip ahead work because I had to add more thread to this. Oh, I thought I was going to skip ahead. Maybe. Oh, no, that's in the next video. The next one. The one after that. This is just a little bit of crochet thread. And I'm going to just sew on the back of the card. I decided to move that to that bottom left corner. It just felt too front and center when I had it up in the middle and toward the top. I wanted it to not obscure, like, 'cause I really like that lantern that's on there. And I wanted to leave room for some of those elements. So I'm going to do a simple stitch to this. I don't know if you can tell that I somehow at some point turned the card upside down. It's okay. Nobody's ever going to see the back of it but me. And I stitched that on. And I did not glue that bit of fabric down in any way. It can be lifted and moved. It's purely attached by the thread that I've sewn on here. So I'm going to make my knot on the back and grab just a little piece of masking tape to tape it down. And I'm trying to think if I add anything else to this. That's maybe it for this portion. I think, oh no, I got some, what are they? I don't remember. I will have it. I think it's the Sharpie pens. No, what is it? It's the Inkjoy, the Papermate Inkjoy. I just found had some white. So I grabbed a couple of those here recently to try out. And I'm going around some of those black Stabilo dots I made with that, just a few of them. So I'm going to give you a quick look at this card. I will have more looks at it at the end of the whole video, and then we'll get to day 2. So for day 2 of ICAD, the Daisy Yellow prompt is zinnia, and you can see I've got a vase full of them. And the mixed media ICAD prompt from Nina is Roy G. Biv, which means red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. It's the rainbow spectrum. And okay, so first I wanted to do was put a little collage down, add a little interest. I'm not going to cover the whole card, and I'm just using my Oohoo glue stick again. So I wanted to leave some of that card exposed. I haven't mentioned these cards, but these are heavyweight index cards from Walmart, y'all. I found them. I don't even know when I found them. I found them in my stash a couple months ago and was like, oh, I don't remember buying these. I guess these are what I'm going to use for ICAD, because they are a heavier weight. If you've bought index cards recently, you know that they are more lightweight than even like a piece of cardstock. So I was like, I bought these. I'm going to use them. So I wanted to see how these cards did with the technique I am going to use. So when I saw the zinnia prompt, I knew I had this vase of them. A farm around the corner from me has a sign out for free zinnias, and I had a bunch. I also had some on my doorstep, so I've got them in a bunch of colors. So I thought, okay, we're going to try to make that Roy G. Biv pattern with them. And so what I'm going to do is a pounding technique. Now I thought I was going to pound the whole flower, but I realized that was going to be too difficult. So I am just going to be removing petals, and I've got a piece of wax paper I'm going to put over. I do have a piece of wood I'm going to place this on, so I'm not hammering directly on my desk, because it's not like a super sturdy desk. So wax paper, and then I pound. Now, for some reason, the red and orange of this doesn't leave much color. You're going to see a little bit in the photos at the end, but I think that's just some of the petals that got left on the they got left on the card when I tried to remove them. So yeah, I'm just placing petals down like such, covering them, and like this. I'm going to speed this up. So, yeah, but I want you to see exactly what I do for all of it. So I'm going in the Roy G. Biv order, but it's going to hit me in a second that I don't have any green or blue flowers. So I end up running outside into my own yard, and instead of having zinnias, I grabbed some fern and a couple little hydrangea petals, because I do have those in the yard, and they tend to be kind of blue. Now, here's me trying it again with the red. Once I realized that the yellow worked out so beautifully, I was like, well, come on, let me try this red again. This is not working. So here is that fern, and I'm going to hammer it, but the center vein of it, that center stem, was giving me some trouble. So I end up having, just like I had to pull the petals off, I'm going to pull these leaves off this fern and kind of, yeah. And I'm doing the same process, y'all. This is just a plain old regular hammer, and and I'm using the wax paper just to kind of contain the mess, more than anything. And there's those hydrangeas. Like I said, those are from my garden. Now I'm looking forward to going and picking more of the free zinnias from the farm around the corner. I'm probably going to do it tomorrow. So maybe when y'all see this video, I will have gotten those. I'm looking, yeah. I mean, free flowers. I am all about it. Okay, so we're getting here. That's what I'm considering my blue. And of course, for indigo and violet, I'm using these kind of violet ones for violet. And then I've got the super purple ones here kind of as my indigo. And it's funny because they looked super purple, but when I pound them here, I'm going to peel this up, and it does have like an indigo color to it. It's kind of crazy, but those violet ones are like super violet. I mean, look at that. And I realized that, yeah, I had like kind of a blank spot there in the middle, so I went ahead and grabbed a bit of one of the hydrangeas. I wanted to see if maybe a pink would do better since the red didn't do well. So I tried it. Now it's not going to do any better. That corner up there just stays kind of muddied and weird. I'm using just like a key card to scrape off some of the excess petals and leaves. And then I'm going to grab my fluid matte gel again, my fluid matte medium, and seal it. This was my hope of kind of preserving that on the card so that it doesn't fade too much, but I don't actually know what's going to happen. So this is a card that I'll probably be keeping for myself to kind of keep an eye on to see what happens. It already feels like it's faded some, but it's hard for me to tell because I do add some more stuff to it. I do kind of wish I left it at this, maybe added a sentiment and been done, because it's super cool. I especially like the marks with the hydrangea, but all of it's fine. I'm really glad that I tried that. It's not a technique I've really done before, and without that prompt of zinnia, I wouldn't have tried it. And without the Roy G. Biv prompt, I wouldn't have gone in that order and tried the hydrangea and the fern like I did, which both turned out super cool. So that's kind of why I love the prompts, is they might make me do things I hadn't considered doing before. And maybe the prompts don't inspire me at first, but thinking about them and looking at them as ways to do something new, is kind of fun. But I'll go ahead and say that the next card 3, I kind of didn't think I was going to use the prompts. So, to the card you saw, I edged it up again with some Distress Ink Walnut Stain, and then I pulled out some sentiments. That one says Celebrate Simplicity, which I thought was super cool. So once I got all that down, I had seen Nina's card for day 1 at this point, and she had used some crackle paste on her card, and I was like, oh, wouldn't that be neat on top of this? So I grabbed my translucent crackle paste from Ranger and a palette knife, and I'm just spreading it around on the card in a couple different areas. I thought maybe that additional coating as well as the matte medium would kind of preserve some of it, but yeah. So I'm going to spread that out. Like most crackle paste, I need to leave this to air dry so that it crackles better. And the thicker I put it on, the bigger the cracks, the thinner, the smaller the cracks. So keep that in mind whenever you use a crackle paste. Let it air dry. And yeah, and y'all, I left this took hours to dry because I had a couple of really thick areas I should have thought about, and it took much longer than I had hoped. But I had the time. It was a Sunday. It was raining outside. It was fine. Of course, the humidity could have influenced what took it so long as well. I wanted to accent those crackles, so I grabbed a little bit of it's a blending stump, is that what they're called? And some charcoal that I put on my desk. And this is a technique I learned from Tiffany Goff Smith. Yes, the Southern Gals Designs. To just use to put some charcoal on your blending stump and rub it over your crackle, and it will get down in the cracks and show the cracks. Now, yes, it darkened up my card a bit more than I would have liked, but it's what happened. So, and that's about it for this card. I'm going to leave it at that, and we'll get to day 3. All right, guys, so the day 3 prompts, for Daisy Yellow, it's Gradient, and for Mixed Media ICAD from Nina, it's Charcoal. I went into this thinking I was not going to use either one of those prompts. I was feeling like the other 2 cards didn't feel a whole lot like me. They weren't the style that I tend to go for. And granted, I was completely inspired to try something new, but those 2 prompts didn't feel new or different or anything to me. So I was like, nope, I'm just going to go with what feels right. So that changes. But we're going to start with that. So I'm going in with my collage. You can see I've got my box of scraps there. and just pulling out things that feel right. In general, I like to start most things with a bit of collage, and using my glue stick makes it super fast and easy to just slap that glue down, and then I've got that same key card to help even it out. Now, for the most part, I like a neutral palette, but every once in a while I'll find a bit of a scrap that inspires me. I've got some papers here. I think they're some decorative papers from your what is it? Your Creative Studio, from an unboxing I did a while back. I'll link that above so that if you want to check that out, because it was super cool, neat papers in it. But I'm using those things and just kind of going with the flow of this, feeling, letting myself feel what, letting myself do what feels right. Oh my gosh, y'all, I don't know where my word's going today. So, this piece of paper, yeah, I'm trying to make sure I keep some of those papers exposed, because I use papers that I thought were cool and neat, and I wanted to be able to see. So I've got one little spot on there that needs a bit of collage, but I decided what I'm going to do is trim up the card and use a scrap that I end up trimming off on there, so it's some of the same like papers. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, I've got this little piece of that decorative paper that I'm going to add, and that will be it. Now, one of the things I really like to do when I have a bunch of papers like this is, and you've seen me do it already, is to use a bit of white gesso and a brayer, and that helps it all feel a little more cohesive. I'm going to go super thin with this. First, I'm like, I don't know. I was like, did I cover everything? Let me check. I wanted to go super thin with this. So I'm going to put the gesso on my table, on my underpaper, rather than on my card, so I can control the amount a bit better. Yeah, and just kind of lightly brayer over it. Now that pushes everything back a little bit. And can you see that feels more cohesive, like more like one thing as opposed to like a bunch of other things. Once I dry it, you'll see that some of the text and things behind pop out a little bit more. And the next thing I am doing is another thing that feels a bit like me, is pulling in that cup of instant coffee. So yes, I used my sprayer, reconstituted it, and then I've got like a really floofy loose brush to color in around there. Now, several things happen. The gesso acts as a resist in a couple areas, as well as that coffee kind of eases into some of the lines. Now, I told you I wasn't really feeling the charcoal prompt, but somewhere in there, I remembered I had these charcoal willow sticks, which to me are like way cooler than the charcoal pencils. I don't know why. I think it's because it's uncommon. It's not something I see a lot, but they're pretty easy to find. I think I found those at Five Below a while back. And so I was like, oh, those will be fun to play with. So I put those down, and then I wanted to see if I could move them with water. So I moved them around a little bit and then splattered some more of my coffee on top of all of it. So there I did work in that mixed media ICAD prompt. Totally surprised me, but hey, I will not complain. The other thing is the gradient prompt. If you look, that coffee has like a gradient, like it goes from a light to dark, especially in that upper left I'm going over right now. But yeah, there's a gradient there. So I did kind of get both of those prompts in there, if you want to think I did. I decided I wanted to add a little bit of color, something super subtle. And one of those pieces of pattern paper I'd put down, I could see a bit of green poking through. And I was like, well, that would be perfect as an olive green. And I grabbed my watercolors and decided to do, and you can see those are some of the same kind of marks I made with the Stabilo on card 1. So I'm kind of, again, sticking with things I like and I know. Now I pulled out, you can see all kinds of stuff. I was really struggling to figure out what direction I wanted to go with it. And none of those fibers and scraps and all of that felt right, except for that number 11. I was like, I bet I could layer that somehow. But I wanted to do something, again, that felt a bit like me. So I pulled out some of these Tim Holtz photo booths and just grabbed one that was loose in that box I've got them in. And this was feeling masculine, so I had two that were kind of loose in there. So the one with the gentleman on it felt more appropriate than the one with the lady on it. So that's why I went that direction. And I'm going to ink the edges again, more of that Distress ink and walnut stain. I just keep it on that thing, and it's whenever I need it. And I'm going to play with layering these a little bit, and then, yeah, I'm going to decide that what I really need is a little bit of actual texture, the same way I did in that first one. So I'm pulling out a scrap of fabric again, going to tear it down. And I don't need a whole lot. I just need a little bit to give that textural quality to it. So it's really just going to be slightly, it's not even as tall as that photo booth picture. It's just going to be slightly wider than it, so you can see that fringing on either side. And I am inking up that little number. Y'all, I don't know where those came from. They wound up in a bucket of something I have, and I was like, oh, I should use these. So they could be from Tim Holtz. I'm not sure. I honestly have no idea. So I will use my Oohoo glue stick to stick that fabric on the back of my... Shoot, cat just jumped out of my lap. To stick that on the back, and then I'm coming back in with more of that crochet thread on my needle, and I'm going to make some X's over on the side of this picture. It's kind of dark over there, and I wanted like a transition between the fabric and the picture, and that like off-white crochet thread seemed perfect. And yeah, and again, it adds that textural element that I really was wanting in this. So without going too feminine by adding like a button or something like that. So there's my thought process with all of that. So I'm just adding 3 X's there on the side. I'm going to tie it off in the back. And then I think I go ahead and decide to glue it down. I'm going to use some Fabri-Tac to do that because these photo booth elements are kind of heavy. That 11 isn't, so I use my Oohoo. I'm going to take a second to get it. That Fabri-Tac is nice and thick, so it's slow moving in the bottle. So I'm going to sit there and squeeze and try to get it to work its way down and put it on the back of that little stack there and stick it down. From there, what do I do next? There's just a couple little things I'll add to this. And one, I will ink the edges of the whole card, again, framing it up with that walnut stained distress ink. And I need a sentiment, something that really kind of speaks. If you can see that photo booth picture, he's got like mountains and trees in the background. Like he looks like he's in, I don't know, Colorado or somewhere up in the mountains region. And so I pull out my Small Talk stickers, and the first one that I see is "And so the adventure begins." And I thought this was kind of perfect for him kind of being in the mountains or something like that. But it also makes me think I tend to turn a lot of these cards, index cards, into actual like greeting cards at Hello Gallery, where I sell some of my stuff. And I thought that's perfect for somebody that's about to go off to college, so, or is just graduated or something like that. So anyway, I'm going to grab one of those charcoal sticks again and just go under that, but blend it out with my finger. And that will finish this card. Like I said, I'm going to give you a look at all 3 of these cards in detail. If you do enjoy these, do let me know. Editing and all that does take some time, but if, I guess I'll figure it out if y'all aren't liking it. I really do appreciate you coming by and watching me work on my ICADs again this year. And if you like this, make sure to give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, do all those things. And I will see y'all again very soon with more art and videos and all kinds of stuff. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Bye.